Chapter 9, The Witches of West Eden. 10 years ago, 1580. A 25-year-old girl ran in the woods in the dead of night as she was chased by an angry mob. As she tripped and fell down, a man hovered above her. Sandra Woods. You are hereby found guilty of witchcraft, the mayor said. Sandra then said through gritted teeth, anger burning in her eyes. You scum of a man. You would hold me in a witch's trial, just to avoid slandering your good name and position. You disgust me. The Lord knows the truth, He will never let you get away with this. He then bent down to her ear and whispered. Do this, and I swear to keep Arya safe. Curse you. If you burn me alive, I will come for you and your whole family, she said as she looked at him with fury. Then burn in hell. Set her ablaze. Meanwhile, at the castle, loud banging knocks echo through the hall. My lord. My lord. I'm coming, I'm coming, the old man said as he walked slowly. A while later, he arrived at the door. Wendy, what's the matter? It's the mayor. He has convinced people that Sandra is a witch. They're going to burn her. At the same time. Ah. Curse you. I cursed you all. Prosperity will never fall on West Eden. All of you will live in fear. I will make you suffer. I will make you pay. I will rise from the depths of hell and make you see what kind of monster I become. Ah. She screamed as her body was swallowed up by the flames. We are acting by the word of the Lord. What have you done? The late Mr. Haven said in horror. A day after the stake burning, Tyler accompanied his mom, Wendy, to gather Sandra's remains. But found nothing but ashes. Tyler, honey, can you please hand me the urn? She said as tears started falling from her eyes. The boy then heard a rustling sound coming from the bushes. He walked closer to see what it was, when suddenly a small beast that looked like a baby lion jumped up at him. Ah! Tyler! She then took out her talisman and held it up to the beast. Her eyes widened as she said. Oh my God, Sandra! A few weeks ago, Tyler confronted his mother after coming home. How could you let it out? There were so many people in the festival. Do you want to murder the whole town? It was an accident, Tyler. The lady wasn't supposed to be her target, but for some reason, I lost control, and she went after her. She said apologetically. You, what do you mean? How could you lose control of her? Tyler yelled angrily. I don't know, but for whatever reason, the beast seems to be drawn to her. Back to present day. Mother, this needs to stop. She killed a dozen men just to get to Edward. What do you want me to do, put her back in a cage? The reason she got this big is because we kept her locked up for so long. Listen, Tyler, sweetheart. She only needs to kill Emma, and the curse will run its course. And how many more casualties will come along with that? He asked frantically. That's why we need to make sure that no one else will be caught up in this. Look, I know that this has created some misunderstandings between you and Leah. But things will go back to normal between you two after this is finished. I will walk you over to her and smooth things over. She thinks I'm hiding something, and that I somehow have something to do with all this. Which I do, by the way. I'm literally hiding the culprit. Tyler sighed in frustration. I'll talk to her when she comes by the tavern, I promise. Arya woke up, shivering due to the fire going out. She wrapped herself in her blanket and looked out the window, but a thick layer of frost covered it. I see you're awake, Holly said as she walked in the room. Looks like the first frost has finally came. We might see some snow soon, she said as she placed firewood in the fireplace before lighting it up. You might want to put on some extra layers if you want to go outside, she said as she opened Arya's wardrobe. After breakfast, she got her cape and went outside. Arya then saw Leah wearing an elegant cape and dress that didn't seem to be too warm. The girl then thought to herself. Maybe she's not that cold. Arya, Mrs. Haven has called you to the greenhouse. She also said to make you some hot chocolate. Okay, I'll be there, Miss August. Arya frowned as she saw Leah leave the garden. Meanwhile, in the town, Emma was walking about lifelessly as she wore a black dress. As the days passed, the town people's grief slowly shifted into anger towards Emma. She mainly stayed inside her house as she was welcomed nowhere in town. The sheriff glanced at her with a mixture of pity and resentment. When an all-black carriage stopped in front of him, with a black dahlia painted on its door, it opened and stepped out. "Hello, Sheriff. Miss Haven," he greeted with a smile. "Sheriff, we hadn't gotten a chance to talk as of late. Nevertheless, my mother and I would like to thank you for stopping the search party. If you like this story so far, like, comment, and subscribe so we can reach 1,000 subscribers. And if this video gets enough views and subscribers, it will give me motivation to write season 2. It was your father who suggested it because it was becoming too dangerous, my lady. Nevertheless, I had to agree for the men's safety." Leah nodded. "My lady, are you in town to see Tyler?" "Yes and no, it's complicated. You see, we had a little bit of a misunderstanding is all," Leah said with a smile. "He is in the tavern with his mother. I hope you two can clear things up," he said with a pleasant smile as he left. In the tavern, people ate quietly. Until Leah walked in wearing the same black color as everyone else. She then sat quietly in one of the window seat with a solemn expression. The reason she let Tyler accompany her was to find out more about the beast. "I feel guilty about our last conversation. After learning about the attack, I thought that he would condemn me to the depths of hell. So I decided to keep my distance for a few days." "Miss Haven," Mrs. Gale said with a smile. "Mrs. Gale, hello." Leah greeted awkwardly. "Are you here for Tyler?" she asked with a smile. "Sort of, yes." Mrs. Gale stared at her and said, "I'm baking a pie in the kitchen, do you want any?" "What flavor?" Leah asked as she stared at the window. "Raspberry." She looked up at Mrs. Gale and said, "Yes, please," before reverting her attention back to what was going on outside. Leah narrowed her eyes when she saw Tyler walking with Emma. She let out a deep sigh as she pretended not to have noticed them coming in. The Princess of West Eden has now fallen from grace. The gloomy atmosphere in the tavern suddenly became tense. Mrs. Gale walked out of the kitchen and saw Leah's somewhat scowling face at Tyler. She then turned away and pulled out a book. "Here you are, dear," Mrs. Gale said as she placed the plate on the table. She narrowed her eyes as the girl barely looked affected. "Thank you," Leah said, still reading her book. The woman didn't know what to make of the situation. She promised her son that she would explain things to Leah, but the girl doesn't seem to be bothered. "My lady, is there something wrong?" she said as she sat down to sit with her. "Not at the moment," Leah said, not lifting her head from her book. "Emma is just going through a tough time, right now. We're all going through a tough time. The only difference is that we have someone to blame for what happened," Leah said, glancing at Emma. She then asked, "Do you think I'm wrong for placing the blame on her?" Mrs. Gale looked at her in surprise. "No, my lady. Although, I would like to know why you did so," she said in a respectful manner. "Simple, at times like these, people's faith in God tends to waver, and they wonder if he had abandoned them. If you don't direct their attention towards something, then we will have an angry mob on our hands with torches and pitchfork, burning witches. However, this is only a temporary stopgap. If you really want to remedy the situation, we have to find and kill the wolf." "I see," Mrs. Gale said with a pleasant smile. "Too bad it's all being undermined by Tyler," she said as she gave a disappointing sideways glance. Mrs. Gale paused and said, "My lady, there is nothing between them. I assure you." Leah then gave a puzzled look as she stiffened and her eyes moved sideways in confusion. "Mrs. Gale, there's nothing between me and Tyler. I assure you, she said while nodding. Mrs. Gale blinked her eyes and smiled, speechless. Leah turned her head down in guilt. I better go. She then ran out. Tyler saw her running out, gave his mother a glance and ran after her. Leah. Leah. What's wrong? He said as he caught up to her at the edge of town. I'm sorry, she said. Okay, what are you apologizing for? Tyler said in confusion. I seem to have given you the impression that I'm somehow reciprocating your feelings, she said with a blank expression. What? I thought. I mean, isn't that what you were doing? Why are you suddenly? Tyler said confused. Is this because you're a vampire? If it is, I'm more than willing to turn into one, Tyler said as he walked closer. You know it's not that simple, Leah said with an angry expression as he kept coming closer with an infectious smile. I'm willing to risk it, he said as they were now inches apart. It's not a 50 to 50% chance. It's 25 to 75. I can't risk it. She was about to turn and was about to walk away, when Tyler said, I don't care if I turn into a vamp. Leah smiled and snarled at his words. No one wants to be vamp. Not even vamps want or wanted to become vamps. Your life will be a prison if you become one. Then why don't we flip a coin and see which one I become? Tyler said as he leaned his face closer to her. It's a dice. And the answer is no. You're willing to turn Arya. She has nothing. You on the other hand. You'd be sacrificing a lot for a roll of the dice. She gave him a stern look before she turned around and left. Like this story, comment, and subscribe to be notified when the next chapter comes out.